Well, Vin Zeeland is an author, musician, relationship coach, dad and grandpa, and we're going to talk about your Zippy book series. And I just love talking about children's books. Is that weird?
No, that's not weird. The children, the children's books are fun. I mean, I grew up on children's books. I don't know about you. Yeah.
Definitely. I didn't grow up in adults' books anyway.
No, we all started somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the Zippy book series?
Yeah. So the Life with Zippy book series are about empowering young children.
Yeah.
Specifically young girls. They explore the world of possibilities by asking important questions, that children, parents, grandparents, teachers, influencers of early readers can relate to.
Yeah. And what kind of questions does it ask then?
Yeah. So, these are drawn off of, my life from being, growing up with my family, but then also being a dad. So they asked the first book, Zippy Loves Rocks, asks the important question, when you grow up, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And the response of Zippy is, she answers it in a couple of different ways. It's kind of fun dialogue between her and her parents. Yeah.
And are there any moral themes in the books as well?
Yeah, of course. The first book, Zippy Loves Rocks, is about curiosity. Yeah. So as we mentioned, Zippy's dad asks her the important question, what she'd like to be. And that's a question that every parent should be asking their children. Yeah. I think most do, and if not for entertainment purposes, think about it. Toby, when you were a kid, did your parents ask you, what do you want to do, Toby, when you grow up?
I guess every so often, but I suppose teachers actually did it more, which I always found kind of annoying because a lot of the time I didn't really know.
Yeah, but like in your mind, what did you think about your future? Like, did you think you want to be a fireman or a police officer? What was your initial thought?
I think I was a train driver myself when I was really young.
Did you grow up to be a train engineer?
No, unfortunately, no.
What did you do?
Well, I'm a radio presenter now, which I guess is something that was a bit of an ambition later on, I suppose.
Sure.
But not when I was really young, but a bit older, I guess.
Yeah. Well, when I was 7 years old, my mom asked me that question, and my answer was, I want to be a rock star. And because I came from a very artistic family, and we were all either painters or artists, mostly musicians. And so I gravitated towards playing music. And I actually realized that ambition for quite a good period of time. But, with my daughters, they are the inspiration of the books. Really started with my youngest daughter. Well, each one of them had their own ambitions, but my youngest daughter was actually the inspiration for the book. We had a family farm out in Northern California, and she came to me one day with a handful of rocks, and she said to me, "Dad, these rocks are so beautiful. What are they called?" And I said, "Well, they're called quartz." And I said, "You can usually find quartz. Where you find quartz, you'll find gold." And she goes, "Well, Dad, what do you call someone who works with rocks?" And I said, "A geologist." And she said, "Well, when I grow up, I want to be a geologist." Yeah. Well, now she's 17. She's graduating high school in the next few months, and she's already been accepted to a private college. And is she going on to be a geologist? No, she's going on she's going to be going into business and going on to be a corporate attorney. Ooh. But yeah, so it's a long, that's a big distance between the two, but we had an ongoing dialogue, and that was the inspiration. That's the point of the book, is to create the dialogues between parents and children and make it an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, I wonder what the percentage is of children that say they want to be something when they're older and actually end up being that thing. I guess it's low, the percentage would be.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the point, is what are the possibilities?
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, I mean, did you ever think you were going to be a radio presenter?
Realistically, no. Yeah.
But you took the risk
Yeah.
eventually, and you have the support of your family and your friends and your colleagues, and and obviously somebody like me is coming on and hoping to gain an audience through you. So yeah, that's the benefit of thinking about the future, and that's all the books. That's what the books are about.
Definitely. And the look of the books as well are quite colourful. Who illustrated them?
Well, it was a gentleman by the name of Nabil Arshad. And I met him online. I presented the story to him. I found his illustrations to be very compelling. And I said, hey, look, I'm looking for some illustrations that have a sort of Japanese anime, but not so sharp in the, like the sharp edges, but the big eyes, the wide eyes, and the roundness of the faces. And just something that was, fun for kids and adults alike.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a guy in the Zippy Loves Rocks book that looks a bit like you. Is that based on you?
Yeah, that's me.
Wow.
Yep. And actually, the three girls in the story are taken from inspiration of my daughters. I actually have four daughters, but in the Zippy Loves Bugs, my oldest daughter, I had to bring her down to the same age. And so what I did is I made her the next door neighbor.
It's a good idea.
So it's loosely based on our family, but not really, Yeah.
And why did you decide to call the character Zippy? Because our UK audience will think of a particular kids' TV character from here when they hear Zippy.
Oh, Zippy. I never even heard of the Zippy puppet until I started doing my analytics on my website, and I started doing a bunch of research, and I went, oh no, there's more than one Zippy character. There's Zippy the Pinhead, and there's Zippy the puppet, and then there's a little girl named Zippy. But my girl, Zippy, my youngest daughter, that was her nickname.
Oh.
So she was, as a kid, she would just zip everywhere, all over the house. It wasn't walking, it was running everywhere.
And what gave you the idea to create these books? Because, I mean, you're not a child yourself, evidently, but I take it you know children and you've got children, so is it just inspired by the children you know?
Well, I have taught adults for a good portion of my adulthood. And I do write adult books. I write fiction. And I write young adult fiction, and actually my books are all very different from each other. However, the reason why I decided to write to children was children's books are hard to write. As an adult, we tend to lose that childlike thinking. We become more ingrained into adult issues. And, in England, and I know he was Irish, so I don't mean to create a dialogue around all of that politics of sorts, but you have a national treasure in C.S. Lewis, and I love his writings, and I love J.R.R. Tolkien, and there's a lot of other British literature authors that I really gravitate towards, but C.S. Lewis said something interesting. He said, a children's story which is enjoyed only by children is a bad children's story.
Yeah.
And so I weighed Lewis's words, and so I decided that I should probably let adults read the books before I publish. And so what I did is I submitted to my next door neighbor, who has a 2-year-old daughter, and she read the book and she wrote a review and she said, my daughter really enjoyed the book, but so did I.
Yeah.
And I said, great. And then I have a single gentleman on the other side of my home. And we had in passing conversation, he's a pretty intellectual guy. Yeah. And I told him about publishing the books. And he said, oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. Well, just this past week, he came to me and he said, Vin, I just bought your book for my 83-year-old mom. And I have to tell you, the graphics, the illustrations, the story fits so well together. I'm going to give that to her as a gift because she's in the hospital and I think she'll really enjoy it.
Yeah. And it's so important to have stuff that appeals to the adults as well, because I guess there's nothing worse for a parent than taking their kids along to the cinema to see something and being bored rigid. And I take it with your books, a lot of the time, the parents are going to be reading it to the children, so they don't want to get bored then again.
Again, yeah. So I take a very different approach to make it interesting. Yeah. My style of writing is what they would refer to as poetic verse or verse novel. Essentially what that means is it's very short sentences, which is the way children read and write early on anyways. They're very concrete. Yeah. And I picked that up from a book that I read by, and I'm going to probably slaughter his name, and I apologize. It's Verlin Klinkenborg.
Oh, that's a cool name.
It's a very cool name, but he works for the New York Times, and a lot of writers. This book was actually suggested to me by my novel writing professor, and he said, Vin, if you want to improve your prose, read this book. And it's a book about writing short sentences. And so this is an interesting story. What actually got me to publish was after I read that book, I realized I'm onto something. And so I sent my adult, 3 chapters of my adult book to a gentleman who was a professor, a PhD literature professor in Manchester College. I think that's what it's called.
Maybe university. I don't know.
It could be university. Yeah. But Manchester, I think it's Manchester College. And his name is Jonathan Pountney. And when I sent it to him, I had not published. And he wrote back, and his first 3 sentences are, Vin, thank you for your submission. I really enjoyed this. This is very experimental. And I haven't seen work like this since the 1970s. Wow. And this is great. Yeah. And I sat there astounded because I'd never had anybody encourage me in my writing before. And I went, I need to publish. So I did. And I started with the books that I wrote five or 6 years ago. Wow. With the children's books, because they were already ready. And so I did.
Yeah. And who would you say the exact target audience is? Because you mentioned it's mainly about empowering girls, but is it younger children or a little bit older? What's the age range?
Yeah, for early readers, they say that between the ages of 1-year-old and 8-year-olds, it all depends on where you are on, the reading level, the cognitive level. But early readers are considered picture book readers between 1 and 7 or 1 and 8. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you've got some merchandise coming up on the way as well, right?
When you mentioned that in our back and forth, I said, oh, well, we better get that out there now. So we do. My developer and I, we spent time last night finishing up the store. Wow. It is available. However, the one thing, the glitch is we can't ship out of the country. We can only ship within the United States. And so I was thinking, how could I get merchandise to people in other parts of the world? Now, they can order the books. My books are distributed all over the world. Say the books can be ordered in Europe. They can be ordered in Australia, Japan, the United States, Canada, virtually anywhere. So the Zippy Loves Rocks and Zippy Loves Bugs is available at 40,000 retailers worldwide.
Yeah.
But the themed T-shirts and the backpacks and the hip packs and the mugs and the spiral notebooks and the stickers and, it goes on and on. I can't ship them out of country. However, if you email me through the website, I will work something out behind the scenes where I order it. And as long as you submit a payment, I will get it shipped out to you.
That's clever then. Clever idea.
Yeah. It just means more work for me. My drop ship. It just means now I've just eliminated my drop shipper.
Yeah. And there are 2 books I see on the website so far. Have you got any more planned after these 2?
I do. So the Zippy series, the Life with Zippy series, is going to be an ongoing theme.
Yeah.
However, I do have another series that I'm writing for a little bit older children. They're going to be very different. It's an idea that I came up with many years ago. Because I not only live in Wisconsin, but I live in Texas as well. And I became enamored with Texas culture. And so I have these animal characters, and so I can't talk about it, but they're animal characters that are Texans, and they take on an anthropomorphic role. And it's going to be all about Texas culture and life, and it's going to be very fun.
Yeah, definitely. But in the meantime, where are we able to check out the books that are out at the moment?
Yeah, so you can go to www.lifewithzippy.com. That's LIFEWITHZIPPY.com. Yeah. You can go to Amazon. So I'm assuming that you have an Amazon in Europe and England.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so if they go to Amazon and they type in, Zippy Loves Rocks or Zippy Loves Bugs, you can find it there.
Yeah, definitely. And as we approach the end of the year, Christmas will be on its way soon, so it's the perfect gift.
It is. And so I am working on developing a holiday season book around Zippy and her family. So I'm kind of scrambling to put that together, but I don't want to push it, make it messy, but I am working on that. It's just the holidays are very, very coming very soon, so I'm working on that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks very much for joining us here this afternoon. It's been great having you on the air.
Hey, Toby, it was a pleasure, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.